Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Good for Bitcoin. It's a weekly show we do every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern where we recap the events of the week, talk about everything that's good for Bitcoin. And oh my gosh, what a week it was this week. I feel like there's just been a massive amount of news almost every single day this week. And we're going to try to breeze through it as quickly as possible. Super special week because, for one, we have a lot of news, but we also announced a bit of a branding for Good for Bitcoin. We have a little bit of a logo that I've pinned at the top, which is very cool to have a little bit of a identity for the show. And we'll keep doing this every week, and it's really cool to have a dedicated identity for Good for Bitcoin. My name is Brandon, social media manager here at Trust Machines. We also have Longstreet.BTC, who is behind the Leather account right now, and I know he's having some issues. I see he was on as co-host, but dropped off. But we had just wrapped up a BNS Twitter space about an hour ago. Had a lot of what I would just consider BNS OGs on that show. A bunch of really amazing people. We had Hank.BTC, we had Larry.BTC, ton of people from the BNS community. We had Manib come on, we had Gina come on from Trust Machines, obviously, and it was just a great space. Also hearing directly from Jesus and Pato, who have actually been the people that have been coding the BNS V2 contract, and really great to hear the BNS community's feedback. And we're going to have a lot of clips and a lot of things to post about that one over the next week or so. But a lot of incredible news. Let's see, Longstreet, are you there? Can you hear me?
I'm here, man, loud and clear. Congratulations on the new branding for Good for Bitcoin. Yeah, man, I woke up to a lot of really good news today. Just a lot of positive posts. Anything that's good for it's all good for Bitcoin. It's good for stacks. Yeah, it's been we got a lot to talk to today.
We do indeed have a lot to cover. Without getting too ahead of ourselves, there's been a lot of stuff that happened. Obviously, a lot of stuff happened this morning, but a lot of stuff has also happened throughout this whole week. Let's get into it. I think one of the biggest ones, I guess, in the broader sort of Bitcoin headlines was that former President Donald Trump will be speaking at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville. That's insane to put it lightly. I don't know exactly when, on what day or whatever he's speaking. I don't know if they announced that yet, but they said that, obviously it's in Nashville. There's basically going to be a new politics stage at the conference where Trump is going to be there, and then other people like Nayib Bukele will be there. Michael Saylor will be on that stage as well, and I believe Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be there, and some other folks also. We've talked about politics many times on this show, and I think we will continue to keep talking about it. But pretty incredible. Last year we had like RFK was on stage in Miami, campaigning and talking about his Bitcoin and crypto policies, and just an incredible time. If you take a step back, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle that you're on. That we have a former president and current running in the running president that is actively campaigning for Bitcoin and for crypto, and it's just pretty incredible.
It really is. And last year, I remember seeing RFK and Ramaswamy talk about it, and RFK announced his candidacy, I believe, at the Bitcoin conference. So to 1 year later see Trump, who is now like by polling the likely president, to see him embracing Bitcoin so much that he's going to be speaking at the Bitcoin conference, it's crazy. And yeah, like you said, regardless of how you've voted in the past, his embrace and his campaign's embrace of Bitcoin moves the Overton window. So now it's not okay for any serious politician or platform to not have a position on Bitcoin and crypto. It forces everyone to get educated and to, announce their position, to have a stance on it.
That is a great point, and that's actually something that scares me a little bit because I was having a conversation with somebody about this when the announcement came that Trump was going to be there, and it scares me a little bit, with Trump taking such a strong stance in favor of Bitcoin. It's just natural that people on the other side, Democrats, are going to just oppose it just because Trump approves it, right? Like that's just the reality of the situation in politics a lot of the time. So I hope that it doesn't get to that point because obviously, Bitcoin is for the people, it's for everybody. But yeah, we'll see. It definitely certainly makes sense to have a stance on on Bitcoin in 2024.
Unfortunately, I think you're right. Just because a lot of the people, most voters, I think, like you said, if they see that Trump is for something, they are going to be against it simply because of partisan politics and voting down party lines. And I like to think, I know for me, like my evolution in politics and voting has become more nuanced. And I'm just so much more interested in having conversations with people and really trying to become educated in every voting issue rather than just saying like, okay, what is this political action committee advising me to vote on every single issue, But that takes work. And I think most voters aren't willing to take the time to get into the nuances of a subject. So I think you have a fair point there that a lot of people are going to see that, oh, Trump likes Bitcoin. I can't like Bitcoin because I can't like something that Trump likes.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, I guess that's just on the electoral side, right? But at least on the state side and just more on the local side, there are certainly many Democrats that are also in favor of Bitcoin. So it's not a division across the entire party lines, but maybe a division between Biden and Trump at least.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but it does move the Overton window. So the conversation is happening. And it makes sense because Bitcoin moves quickly. So anyone who wants to be involved in this space, they have to move quickly too. So, I mean, kudos to the people around Trump who do see it. And I think it was the Winklevi. They had a meeting with him, a month ago or so. And, people are moving quickly. The fact that Trump is speaking at the Bitcoin conference. I mean, look, he knows it makes sense for him. He's making a lot of money. So he's having a special meeting, right? And you essentially have to pay $60,000 around a Bitcoin to get there. And I don't even know how many seats he's sold, but it's a moneymaker for him. He knows it.
Yeah, it certainly is a fundraiser. Yeah, I think the Winklevi each donated like $1 million in crypto to his campaign recently. I think that's what you're talking about. And then yeah, we've seen just a ton of people like Ryan Selkis was like famously on stage with him a month or two ago when a lot of this started to come to fruition, right? With Trump seemingly kind of turning just a different stance on crypto and Bitcoin in general. And that kind of gets into, Trump, is going to be speaking at Bitcoin Nashville, but it also is coming on, the GOP themselves, announcing crypto as part of their 2024 platform. So it's really a major issue that they are targeting. And I want to read this here. So, the Republican National Committee's platform has adopted a policy document for the 2024 election that includes a pledge to defend the right to mine Bitcoin and protect self-custody of digital assets. This stance is part of a broader commitment to end what the party describes as an unlawful and un-American crypto crackdown. to oppose the creation of a central bank digital currency and ensure the right to transact freely without government surveillance and control. The adoption of this policy reflects a significant political movement for cryptocurrencies, marking their inclusion in a major party's official platform.
Yeah, that's definitely progress, movement in the right direction. +1, good for Bitcoin.
Absolutely, and I talked about this. It's been quite a while, but I talked about a lot of these issues that they're campaigning on, just with protecting self custody, protecting the right to mine Bitcoin. I mean, a lot of it just comes back to like First Amendment principles and
Right.
property rights, and just really, really basic things that any American resonates with for the most part, right? So the fact that they're campaigning on these things makes a ton of sense because most Americans, I think, can get behind the fact that I should have the right to custody my own assets and not have them, taken from me by the government and other parties. So makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, definitely. Before I ask you for a TLDR on the BNS space earlier, do you want to talk about the SEC ending their investigation on Hero Systems and Stacks?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't really know that this was something that was ongoing. I don't know if this was if that was just me, like not paying enough attention or whatever. But this is huge. I got into Stacks just as part of working here at Trust Machines. I wasn't really deep into the ecosystem prior to that. I'll say, but I just from understanding where Stacks sort of came from, it came from sort of this Reg A offering, at least for this Stacks V2, where Stacks essentially decentralized according to SEC guidance, and that happened, and yet there was still a 3-year investigation from the SEC looking into this. So I'll read the headline here. It says, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has concluded a 3-year investigation into Hero Systems, formerly known as Blockstack, without recommending any enforcement action. The investigation focused on Hero Systems' $70 million token sale from 2017 to 2019, specifically concerning the Stacks token. Despite initial concerns, the SEC's decision to drop the case is seen as a positive development for the blockchain industry, and Hero Systems had previously attempted to comply with regulations by conducting a Reg A offering. And as far as I know, Stacks is, this essentially makes Stacks one of the only tokens that has gone through this Reg A process and is essentially kind of being graced by the SEC here. So pretty big, amazing news for Stacks, but also good for Bitcoin as well, right? It's pretty incredible news.
Yeah, definitely. As Stacks is the leading L2 for Bitcoin. I mean, it would have been an exciting day had that been the only announcement on Twitter.
Yeah, and it certainly was not the only announcement this morning. It was also announced, we've been watching it very closely, all of us with bated breath on Stacks Nakamoto. It was announced this morning that Stacks Nakamoto is now code complete, which is just incredible, especially coming from some of the delays that have happened, which have been necessary, of course, to make sure that Stacks remains safe for all parties. But we've gone through several delays at this point, and it's really incredible to see this milestone where now Stacks is code complete. It's now going through, the community feedback process, the audit process, all the security things to make sure that it is really buttoned up, to make sure that it can safely launch. But incredibly important milestone, and huge news. Say normally like bad news drops on Friday. So it's amazing to see how much good news has dropped today. But yeah, incredible that we're going to see Nakamoto very soon, next month, probably.
Yeah, there's a lot to look. The fall is going to be great. I know for anyone who looks at the price, summer usually isn't a super exciting time. We're in a bit of a trading range, but I think Nakamoto is going to coincide with the end of the summer trading range and fall coming around. And it's another exciting thing around the corner. I've also been posting some pinned tweets in the nest for everything that we've been talking about. So if anyone's curious to dig deeper, and please do share these as well. Support the space.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I always forget to pin things up there. So thank you. I did pin our rebrand, but yeah, I forgot about all the other things. So appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, in other news, at the beginning of this week, BNS V2 also was sort of announced and open sourced, and this is something that has been in the works for a very long time, through discussions, and then finally getting to the point where, okay, we have a pretty good plan in place, and we can actually start building the contract for it. And now it has been on Tuesday. It was open source to the public, so anybody can go to the GitHub and they can view the code and audit it. And it's also going through an audit as well. And we had a really wonderful space just about an hour and a half ago, with many of the people that are building BNS V2 and have been in the community and in the ecosystem for years. We heard from some people that have 10,000 BNS names, which is mind blowing to me. But just to give a very high level recap of everything that BNS V2 is going to offer, that really is the biggest one, is, in my opinion, one of the biggest ones. I think just from looking at user feedback, is the ability to have multiple BNS names in one wallet. Prior to this, BNS was treated very much as just an identity where you had one BNS name per wallet address. So for people that had dozens or hundreds or thousands of BNS names, they had dozens or hundreds or thousands of wallets that they had to manage, which sounds incredibly cumbersome. So now, you're going to be able to manage all those things just in one wallet, which is just incredible. Incredible progress.
Yep, it's definitely an improvement. And as far as I know, it cost up to 5 stacks anytime you wanted to register a BNS. Is that right? Am I remembering correctly?
I think you're correct. But interestingly, so that the registration, that costs money. But there's actually been a bug in the protocol, I guess, since Stacks 2.0, where it was actually technically free to renew names. So that is being fixed with BNS V2, but that's a good thing, because essentially what happens when you renew names, but both when you register names and you renew names, is it's actually a Stacks is getting burned in that process. That Stacks isn't going somewhere, to like an entity. It's actually being burned. So anytime that a BNS name is registered or renewed, that is good for the entire Stacks ecosystem and for the Stacks token. So it's great that we're getting that back and that fixed. Even though I see Hero with a sad face there, maybe he's not happy about. Maybe he's the one with 10,000 BNS names, and he's upset that he's going to have to renew all those. But but it is good for the Stacks ecosystem.
Yeah, there were so many good questions. So, well, before I throw you more questions, what else can you tell us about some of the best questions that were thrown, and some of the light that was shed on this transition to BNS V2?
I think that one of the biggest ones, I think, just that most people are going to interface with, just is the fact that you can have multiple BNS names in one wallet. And the BNS names will now also be treated essentially as Stacks NFTs. So for any wallets, any marketplaces, anywhere that is compatible with Stacks NFTs, will now also be compatible with BNS names. We had like Nick from Gamma was up talking about their support for it, and they definitely have a really big BNS marketplace on Gamma. But that requires a lot of special code and a lot of special smart contracts and a lot of almost like hacky ways to get that to work, because they're not treated the same as Stacks NFTs are. But now they will be. So just in terms of new wallets, new infrastructure in general, new marketplaces, it's going to be much easier now to support BNS names going forward. because they're going to be treated just the same as Stacks NFTs are, and it won't require any additional work to get them to work.
Yeah, it was good to hear the guys talk about that, because BNS was enabled before Stack 2.0 launched, and the SIP9 tokens, which enable NFTs, it was before the SIP9 tokens were adopted. So yeah, that's why Nick was talking about all this workaround. So yeah, it'll be more streamlined, and I think it's a good feature. You know, someone asked if they would be able to consolidate all those, all of your BNS names, if it's even 10,000 plus. There won't be a way to easily consolidate all of the BNS names that you all have been collecting over the past 2 to 3 years. It sounds like it'll be one-to-one. You have to manage and send those around yourself, but that's as it should be. It would take Zeus was talking about this. It would take a hard fork to solve that issue.
Yeah, I mean I totally acknowledge, for those folks that have like that many names, it's totally going to be a cumbersome process to consolidate. Zeus talked about, somebody could potentially build like a tool that could try to assist with that. It's not going to be, baked into the smart contract, but I think more importantly, the way that this sort of it's not really a migration because it is a hard fork. Essentially, what's going to happen is when BNS v2 goes live, anyone that's holding a BNS v1 name or a BNSX name is going to receive an airdrop of BNS v2 name. So if you're holding a BNS v1 name or a BNSX name, you're going to get that, BNS v2 name. No action required on your part. You're not going to have to go claim it or anything like that. You're not going to have to pay any fees for it. Those fees are going to be paid for when the airdrop happens. So there's zero action required on anybody's part to get a BNS v2 name if they already have an existing BNS name. So that's really incredible. Whether you have many BNS v names, v1 names or not, you're going to get that airdrop regardless.
Nice. Is there anything you can talk about addition to build on to the .locker conversation? Was there any clarity about that? Anyone coming up with good questions or comments?
There's been a lot of really good questions for .locker, both just in like the replies on, the BNS community Discord. So we've been monitoring that, and we want to have basically a dedicated space that's dedicated just for .locker. Originally, when we were thinking about the space for BNS, we wanted to maybe do it in combination, like a BNS v2 / .locker space. But there's so much to get through just with BNS on its own that it made more sense to split it up. So we want to do a dedicated .locker space. We're probably going to do that next week. We might actually do that just as part of the Good for Bitcoin show next week on next Friday. Nice. But TBD, we might, depending on people's availability, we might move it up or move it to a different day or something like that. But I'd like to just do it on, on this show. I think it makes most sense. But yeah, we talked about on this space a bit about some of the additions with managed namespaces. And this is something that has already existed on BNS v1, but it's sort of being taken into overdrive on BNS v2. Set Jesus talked about this being really one of his favorite features, and one of his favorite additions with BNS v2 was all of the changes that are coming to managed namespaces. And I'll break down kind of what that is. So with standard namespaces, .btc, .id, etc., they're very decentralized, right? Anybody can go on and interact with the smart contract, and they're permissionless, and anybody can interact with them, right? But we now have these managed namespaces, which will allow you to do really interesting things. It'll essentially allow an entity to manage a particular namespace, like .locker, or we can imagine like different NFT communities or different coin communities coming out with their own managed namespaces. Maybe we'll see like a .welsh namespace in the future, right? And what's really interesting with that concept is you can make it so that only people that own .welsh or that own a Welsh token can register a .welsh domain name. Or you can make it so that to register a .welsh domain, you have to pay in Welsh tokens and not STX. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with that. And on the .locker side, for managing namespaces, because essentially the flow for people that are going to get a .locker is you're going to register it through a registrar like GoDaddy or Namecheap or these other registrars that are out there, and then we are going to essentially issue you a .locker on BNS, and that process does need to be controlled by .locker, in order for that to happen, because they need to be sort of linked together. So you're not going to be able to have only a .locker that is on BNS that is not also on DNS. They're both going to be sort of linked together. So .locker couldn't really function without this managed namespace existing. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that next week when we have Don back on, and then maybe we'll get Jesus and Pato, or see whoever else makes the most sense to have come back on to talk a little bit more about that, because it's super interesting.
Yep, and it's also in the same category of Bitcoin becoming mainstream, and like I mentioned yesterday, Bitcoin being more than just an asset. There's Bitcoin the blockchain too, and there's functionality there as well. So that I'm looking forward to that conversation. It's an exciting development.
Yeah, I think one other question too, just to kind of wrap up the BNS conversation, is I think it was either almost .btc or 3.id asked about what does Trust Machines think about these different namespaces, and are we going to be favoring .locker over other existing namespaces? And while he's asking that, we have people that are in the speaking position, like Gina.btc and Don.btc and Manib.btc, and we're all .btc holders for one. And I don't think that's going to be changing, right? We're not going to dump our .btc names. But we talk about, like, with Trust Machines, we are ultimately a layer agnostic company. We're building on layers like Stacks. We're open to building on other layers as well. We've done some stuff with Lightning. We've done some stuff with DLCs. And we're very open overall. At the end of the day, we're trying to grow the Bitcoin pie, and we're just trying to grow Bitcoin itself. Wherever layers are, built on top of that, we're open to working with them. And I think that's the same with BNS, right? BNS is a protocol, and a lot of these things that are coming about are going to benefit all BNS holders, not just .locker holders. Manib a week or two tweeted out, .locker is going to be sort of a bridge, right, where you can type in Brandon.locker and get to a website. He also talked about the fact that he'll be able to have his .btc name as well, so he'll be able to do Manib.btc.locker, and that will also resolve to a website. So there will be features even that are integrated into .locker that will, again, benefit all holders, and you won't need to own a .locker to take advantage of those features. So that's one of the features that has been announced. I'm not sure if there's more or what else is coming, but I think it just underscores that we're very open to the community feedback, and we want to grow the pie, right? We want to grow the BNS pie and the Bitcoin pie, and it's good for Bitcoin and it's good for BNS.
Well, that's the right mindset. It's not zero sum here. That's why I like that analogy of growing the pie.
Yeah.
So we could move on to some news that is close to home, at least in my former life. Going down to Southern California, to Santa Monica. What's going on down there?
Yeah, I think I've talked about it on the show before, where I think their firefighters pension or something like that was investing in Bitcoin. And now it seems like, the city itself is going to be exploring Bitcoin more. So they're planning to open a Bitcoin office to explore Bitcoin education for its residents. What that basically includes is, they had basically 4 goals that they talked about with part of this announcement. One is providing Bitcoin education, just generally. 2 is facilitating partnerships and conferences to grow tourism. So maybe we'll see a Bitcoin conference in Santa Monica. Who knows? Down the road. Connecting residents to jobs. We can see. We obviously are working in in the industry, right? There's many opportunities in this industry, and then also exploring sustainable Bitcoin mining powered by the city's renewable energy. So that's super cool to see more states, more cities getting on board with Bitcoin mining. Obviously, Texas is the biggest one in the U.S., but there's a lot of other states that are doing a lot with Bitcoin mining as well. And California has not, I think, been traditionally one of those states. So really cool to see that come about. And I don't know if you saw the Santa Monica Ferris wheel on the Santa Monica Pier had just a big Bitcoin logo on it. That was lit up the other day, which is pretty cool.
Wow, I missed that. Yeah, well, that's amazing. I used to live down in Venice Beach, so and when I was there a few weeks ago, I was driving around and I saw a lot more either signs for Bitcoin and crypto and NFT things or dedicated spaces that were specifically for Bitcoin. So that's an exciting development. And that means that there's going to be a ripple effect. So surrounding communities too, once again, they're going to look to Santa Monica. Why is Santa Monica doing this? Okay, maybe we need to research this. What is our Bitcoin position?
Yeah, it goes back to that like gradually then suddenly quote, right? It's just all these little things are coming about that are promoting conversations and encouraging people to dig a little deeper. And it's really great to see all these little community initiatives come about that are ultimately going to bring something bigger and grow into something bigger.
Yeah, last year it was the Santa Monica firefighters pension, and now it's Santa Monica, but I don't think Germany got the message yet. What's going on with Germany?
So I'm actually looking at their balance. So Arkham Intelligence published this dashboard that allows you to visualize the amount of Bitcoin that Germany is holding, and we talked about this last week. How they basically had come, taken hold of a bunch of Bitcoin. They had seized it from some criminals, I guess. I don't recall who they seized it from, but in any case, they ended up with this huge tranche of Bitcoin, and a lot of people were speculating, what are they going to do with it, right? Are they going to hold it? Maybe treat it as like a strategic reserve asset, but nope, that was not the case. And as we've seen, with Bitcoin's price, it's taken a really massive dip because Germany basically just decided to market sell it throughout the whole, this past like week and a half. And looking at the dashboard now, it looks like they have no more Bitcoin. So I think they're done selling. Which is a positive thing. Hopefully that means the price is going to go back up a little bit. Seems like it has actually rebounded a bit lately, but yeah, I mean they're going to regret it later, right? I'm sure, just because we're all probably holding Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset individually. And I think the micro strategies of the world that are holding Bitcoin as a long-term, store of value, it's going to ultimately pay off for them. So we haven't really seen, Germany doing this would have been huge. I think they probably would have been one of the bigger countries to treat it as sort of a strategic asset, but it just doesn't seem like we are there yet.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, to be fair, I've made silly mistakes like selling Bitcoin at the wrong time, but
haven't we all?
I'm not in charge of a country, so yeah, it's rough to see. Yeah, them making that decision. I mean, people in this audience, we know that that's not how we should be doing things, but they'll come around. Like you said, hindsight will be 2020 on this one.
Yeah, it was funny to see a lot of the reactions and just to see how they conducted the sell off. They literally were just like moving different tranches to different exchanges and selling it on the market, and that's just not how you do things when you're wanting to sell off a large, a large amount of Bitcoin like that. Usually you're going through OTC desks and other kind of institutional venues to do that, which doesn't affect the price overall for everybody. So yeah, I mean, they sold it off kind of with no regard, and and we saw that reflected in the price.
One person's trade is another person's opportunity, and I know there are a lot of other people that were able to dollar cost average at a little bit of a lower price, so it's not bad.
Absolutely, yeah. We saw, forget which institution it was. I think maybe it was like Fidelity or somebody was buying up a bunch of Bitcoin over the past like week and a half, sort of in retaliation to all the Bitcoin being sold off.
Just to set that floor price, huh?
Yeah. Well, in some other news, I guess going back to on the political side, we talked a few weeks ago about SAB 121, and Biden vetoed the passage of that bill, which would have revoked SAB 121. It went back to a vote to try to sort of override Biden's veto. And in the U.S., you need a 2/3 vote in order to override a veto. And unfortunately, it did not get enough votes. So we are still in SAB 121 world, unfortunately. And hopefully, we'll have some progress sometime in the future. But for now, at least, we're stuck with that bill.
All right, the gatekeeping continues, but as we know, we just got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, what else? Let's see. Any other things on the... I had a great conversation yesterday. Leather Lounge has been moved from Wednesdays to now Thursdays at 3 p.m. And we talked with Rosar, who is building a community-run DeFi application, a platform on Stacks. And I really enjoyed the conversation. We went kind of long just because he's such a fascinating person, and I appreciated his approach to just kind of building anything. He's super into music, and he's a very creative person. So it was a fantastic conversation with him, and we learned a lot more about what he's building with Charisma, with the community-run DeFi protocol.
Yeah, it's been super interesting to see him kind of building in the open with Charisma. I feel like it's been getting a lot of buzz lately. I think he actually just had an announcement this morning on a new feature, like a new farming feature that's available on the platform. So he's been iterating and building at a very fast pace over the past couple of weeks. I think he on the space yesterday, right? He mentioned, I think he said to his fiance, he was like, "Hey, listen, I'm going to be really busy for the next few weeks." And we can see that he's definitely been busy.
That's something that Peter from Velar mentioned too in one of the meetings that we had. He said it's just the conversation that I have with my family right now. Like, this is the world that I live in, and in order to be someone building in this space and creating, I mean, you have to be super heads down and focused. So it takes a special person, but it was fascinating to hear his approach and dedication. And like you said, he just launched this farming. Rosar knows gamification. He knows how to keep things fun and how to grow things. And if you look at how quickly this program, this platform is growing, he knows what's up.
Yeah, he's definitely been in the space for a very long time. He has, observed firsthand, right, what works and what doesn't work, and what to do and what not to do. And he's just going out and building what he wants to see in the world, and it's pretty awesome to see all the things that he's been doing. So that was a really great conversation yesterday. I definitely enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's been fun. That was our 10th episode, and we've already clocked in so many good calls. I mean, a lot of them, I think the most popular ones are Stacks focused. Just that's because where most of our audience is coming from. but we've had people outside of Stacks. We've had even people that I've had some people who didn't know about Stacks like at all, because they're from the Bitcoin space or from like the ETH space now getting onto Bitcoin because Bitcoin can do so much more. So I've just been learning so much over the past 10 episodes. We're in our second season now, the summer season, and it's been a super strong start. And I'm excited for everyone that we have coming up.
Yeah, that's really one of the things that I love about Leather is just how many different protocols we support. And it's not just a Stacks audience, right? We support Bitcoin stamps, and we've had talks about doing like a Bitcoin stamps Leather lounge in the future. And yes, I mean so many others. So yeah, it's really cool to unite all these different Bitcoiners that are all kind of in their niche protocols and sub protocols and stuff together through one wallet, which is Leather. So yeah, it's been cool to interact with all these different communities that all have different perspectives on how to do things, right? We have ordinals and we have stamps, and they're both on chain, L1 arbitrary data protocols, but they both do things in a very different way. And it's cool to, support both of those things in one wallet. And yeah, and just we're just a Bitcoin wallet, right? We're trying to support as many things as we can. So just going back to that ethos, right, of being layer agnostic, it's really cool that we support all those things.
Yeah, definitely. How about the conference and Bitcoin builders? Is there anything you can talk about now? Is the schedule coalescing? Anything that you're excited about?
Yeah, things are being finalized. I think next week we'll have some more announcements in terms of different things that we're sponsoring. I think some stuff is still just kind of getting buttoned up, and invoices are being paid and things like that. But the biggest, one of the biggest ones is, Bitcoin builders, who many in the Stacks ecosystem are probably already familiar with. Trust Machines and Leather are both sponsoring that. And there's going to be some really cool, I'll say some really cool activations with Leather, especially. We're also trying to potentially do a live in-person Leather lounge, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to operationally do that, but I'll be bringing some of my audio equipment to potentially host that. And yeah, we'll be doing some stuff in the ordinal space as well. So really excited to announce more. But yeah, next we're definitely in like full planning mode right now, and hopefully we'll have some more announcements next week once we have everything a little bit more finalized.
Great. Well, the FOMO is really setting in for me, man. I'm not planning on being there, but part of me is like, maybe I can find a way to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, just hitch a ride on, FedEx yourself here or something like that. And
yeah, I'll stick myself in the Leather, the promo stuff that you guys sent around.
Yes.
Stuff in that package and say return to sender.
Yeah, I'll say, I guess, just to tease, we are, planning some really cool giveaways, some really unique giveaways, and we want to make sure that even if you cannot attend in person, we want to make sure that there are still some opportunities to participate and to experience some of the really cool things that are happening in Nashville. So even if you can't make it, stay tuned because we're going to have some cool stuff for you as well.
Nice.
But I think that's probably a good place to leave it. I feel like I need to rest my voice. I feel like I've been talking all morning on these spaces, and I'm also going to a concert tonight, so I'm going to be my voice is going to just be dead by tomorrow.
Can you tell us what you're seeing?
Yeah, I'm seeing a band called A Day to Remember, and if you're familiar with that band, you will know how much I'm going to be screaming my head off tonight, because they're a bit more of a not a hardcore band, but kind of more on the metal pop punk side of things. So yeah, it's going to be a loud show.
Well, what a perfectly and appropriately named band for a day to remember.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful close. A beautiful way to close the show. It certainly was a day to remember today. Huge news. And we'll see what happens next week. I don't know if next week is going to be quite as big as this week was, but either way, we will see you next week at the same time, Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you then.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for listening. We record Good for Bitcoin live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on X. Please follow us at Trust Machines Co. if you would like to listen and engage with us live. Visit us at trustmachines.co for all the latest Bitcoin news. We'll see you next week.